First up, news from the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir, where 8 Indian security personnel lost their lives in an ongoing encounter with terrorists at Pulwama. Security forces killed 3 terrorists who had entered the family quarters of the district police lines in Pulwama early on Saturday. Terror outfit Jaish-e-Mohammed has claimed responsibility for the attack. 4 Jammu and Kashmir police personnel and 4 Central Reserve Police Force personnel were killed in the attack. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti condemned the attack. She said that the 3 decades-old violence has taken a toll on the people of the state. Meanwhile, Pak armed forces continue to provoke Indian forces at the international border. Ceasefire violations were reported in Sundarbani area of Rajouri sector and Pargwal sector in Jammu. The border security force gave a befitting reply to Pakistan's provocation. 3 Pak rangers were reported to be killed in Sundarbani area in cross-firing. All right, joining me to discuss this development is my guest in the studio, senior journalist Rahul Jalali. Good morning, Mr. Jalali. Good to have you back in the WION studios. And what do you make of these, persistent and recurrent provocations from the Pakistani side in Jammu and Kashmir?
Well, I think if you look at this latest attack on Pulwama, there are 2 new things about it. One, that Jaish-e-Mohammed is back. Now, Jaish-e-Mohammed is important because this is the outfit which specializes in fidayeen attacks,
right,
which is what you've seen, which is what they did in Uri, and now this, which led to so many deaths because fidayeen is something which is difficult to stop. The second important point is they've opened a new sector as far as cross-border violence is concerned. They're now bombing and firing at Pargwal. Mm-hmm. Even Punch. Right. Earlier it used to be Punch. Now why I'm saying this is because Pargwal is on the international border and it's way off from Punch. Now they are trying to, the reason for this firing is that they want to sneak terrorists in. So they're trying this route now. This is near Akhnur. So that's the other major point. But what I want to emphasize is whatever group you name it, Jaish obviously is something which specializes in fidayeen attacks. Also, Masood Azhar, the chief of Jaish, was traveling in PoK. I think you've also got to look at PoK because things are heating up for Pakistan within PoK, right, the kind of demonstrations which have been going on for the last 1 month. So that, you have to look at it from that context also.
So what does that dynamic in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir tell you? What does it say, the state of play in PoK, and what does it have implications for India going forward?
Well, I think it's very important because if you see, things are not easy for Pakistan in PoK. In fact, the way they've been operating, including the puppet Prime Minister, Raja Farooq Haider last month had to tell the Central Assembly in Islamabad that hands off, if you continue like this, we are going to walk away from Pakistan. And look, if the puppet Prime Minister says this, what is the plight of people there? They are revolting against terrorist training camps which have been set up in their region. There have been major revolts which have been quelled with increased violence by Pakistani army. So to take away this situation, to take away attention from this worsening situation in PoK, they're trying to heat up Kashmir. Also, because look, the strikes against terrorists in Kashmir of the Indian Army, of the Indian security forces, is huge. Almost 140 killed in the last 3 months. So they want to keep terrorism alive because I have reports that a lot of Kashmiri terrorists who had gone towards the gun are willing to surrender.
The Jammu and Kashmir National Awami Party and the National Student Federation took to the streets in Rawalakot today. The 2 parties accused Pakistan of violating human rights in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and also Gilgit-Baltistan area. The protesters chanted slogans for Pakistan to withdraw their troops from the Baltistan area and also Pakistan-occupied Kashmir.
पाकिस्तान यूएन में अपने मायदे के तहत अपने वादे के तहत अपनी फौज को विड्रॉ करें तो इस नाम नहाद आजाद कश्मीर के जरखरीद गुलाम जिस पर चोली यासीन जैसे बदबूदार लोग हैं उन्होंने कहा ये गद्दारी कर रहा है। ये इस आजाद खित्ते का कैरेक्टर है। सबसे ज्यादा बेइज्जती यहाँ पे पाई जाती है। हम गिलगित बल्तिस्तान को कश्मीर के कॉन्फ्रेंस, नेशनल अवामी पार्टी, नेशनल स्टूडेंट फेडरेशन उनको नहीं भूलेगी। उनके दर्द हमारे दर्द साझे हैं।
Right, so Mr. Jalali, there we saw those visuals of the slogans being chanted there, asking Pakistan to withdraw their troops from Baltistan, Gilgit-Baltistan and PoK. What do you make of the situation obtaining inside PoK today as we speak? What do you make of the situation there and its implications for India going forward especially?
See, I think what the clip you've shown is significant because this is Baltistan. Now, Gilgit-Baltistan has been carved away from undivided Jammu and Kashmir by Pakistan, and they call it northern areas.
Right.
Portion of which has been handed over to China, and the Chinese are building their CPEC corridor from this region, in this region rather. Now, this kind of protest is nothing new. It's been happening time and again in Gilgit-Baltistan. But what's interesting, PoK is now raising its voice. The people in Muzaffarabad, Kotli, Mirpur, they are talking about rejoining Gilgit-Baltistan, or rather the northern areas, with undivided Jammu and Kashmir. So that's one movement which is going on. Secondly, the anti-establishment, anti-Pakistani movement in PoK is gathering steam. And the two are joining together today. So this is a major first which is happening in Pakistan, and it's going to be very worrisome for the regime in Islamabad to run both these regions the way they've been doing it. I mean, this kind of sham democracy which they've introduced there is going to blow in smithereens. It's already dead. They're carrying rigor mortis is all virtually set in. And the manner in which Pakistan is reacting now in PoK, in Gilgit-Baltistan, right, they've resorted to brutal force. I mean, and they've resettled people because, look, they've also done away with permanent settlement, absolutely, which is the State Subject Act in that region. And they have resettled people from Punjab in Gilgit-Baltistan, trying to dilute the local inhabitants.
Change the demography, as it were.
It's totally being changed, which has not happened as yet in PoK, but they're trying that. So the resistance is growing, and I think the independence movement in both these regions, which were separate, are joining up. So look at the strength which they'll gather.
Sure. Mr. Jalali, do hold your thought. I'm now joined by Lieutenant General Raj Kadhian. Good morning, General. Good to have you back on WION. May I begin by asking you for your initial reactions to the ongoing encounter in Pulwama and also the state of human rights situation in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, where we're seeing a new wave of popular discontent rearing its head again?
If we see the developments of yesterday's terror attack, there had been a little lull in the terror attacks in the past few weeks. That was because of the relentless pressure put by the security forces starting from May onwards. Yesterday's attack is very unfortunate. It is obvious that they are now targeting soft targets. That is a target like going into a complex where there are also families, where they could have caused more casualties, and also the security personnel are restrained for fear of causing collateral damage. The other part is that if you notice the pattern, most of the attacks are now centered around Pulwama. That is one place from where a lot of local terrorists have grown. So their support base is shrinking. And time is not too far when we will be able to completely dominate the area and substantially reduce these attacks. As far as this, the responsibility is already owned by Jaish-e-Mohammed, despite the American threatening language of late, of taking action against Pakistan, despite Azhar Masood having been declared by the Americans as a global terrorist. Pakistan has not been deterred from using terror to attack India. Azhar Masood is roaming free. There was information some days back he was seen near the LoC, which could be related to the attack that took place yesterday. The 8 security forces dying is a high number. I know earlier also we had lost a number of people in Uri. But that was not so much for the fierceness of the attack, but it was accidental because there was a fuel dump in the same complex that caught fire, and a lot of security personnel had died because of the fire. Yesterday's attack, which is on a soft target, is going to be the new pattern. The security forces acted well. It is difficult to be judgmental sitting far off, but yes, 2 CRPF persons reportedly have died in defusing a booby trap or a bomb that the terrorist had planted. This kind of casualty can be preventable. There could have been a lack of training, lack of care, or lack of wearing proper clothing. Otherwise, whenever the terror attack takes place, since the terrorists have the initiative, the casualties are inevitable. The effectiveness lies how soon and how effectively we are able to corner them and take action to eliminate them. On such occasions, there is always a hurry, particularly in the media, that why so many hours have gone and we have not been able to neutralize the terrorists. The time is not of essence. Once you have surrounded the terrorists, once their escape routes are blocked, then the time is on our side. In fact, our effort should be twofold. One, to avoid any collateral damage which in a hurry might occur. Also to avoid casualties to own troops. Secondly is to make an attempt to capture one of the terrorists alive by tiring him out, because that will be a greater catch. It will lead to better dividends. Otherwise, the details, of course, we don't know sitting far off. The security forces have retaliated. It was a soft area. There were families living there. They had to be very careful. Some of the excess casualties could have been a result of that precaution or that caution that was imposed on the security forces. Otherwise, they should be prepared. There will be more such attacks. The defense against such attacks does not lie actually at the target end. Because every terror attack will cause casualties. The effect or the defense lies in causing a deterrence at the handlers.
Fair point, General. Your point is well taken.
Unless we are able to...
General, your point is well taken, but some would say even one life is one too many. So how do you expect, or what should the Indian government do going forward? How do you impose costs on the perpetrators of these terrorist attacks?
Yes, as I said, the 8 casualties is a very high figure, but part of it could have been, it is difficult to make a judgment since we don't know the ground situation, that the caution imposed on the security personnel, since the families are involved, they don't want a single family to be killed. So that could have been a caution, but the point I was making is that once you have, they are holed up, once they are surrounded, their escape routes are blocked, then there is no urgency for us to take extra risk, either of causing collateral damage or even suffering casualties to own security personnel. We should take our time. I don't see why they should be pressured. They can't escape. They can't run away. The time is not too far. They are carrying limited ammunition. They will run out of it. Some of them might surrender. Time is a big factor. After all, he is also a thinking person. But the point I was making was that if we want to effectively protect ourselves against these attacks, then the answer does not lie at the target end. Answer lies at the source from where they emanate. And that happens to be Pakistan. Unless we start extracting a price from Pakistan, in whatever manner, economic, diplomatic, political, even military, these attacks will carry on. Pakistan, there is no change in the policy. Even though the Americans have kind of pulled away from them, but they are now riding on the Chinese shoulders.
General,
unless there is a change of policy that is imposed on Pakistan, we have to live with it.
Fair point, General. Coming to you, Mr. Jalali, talking about the discontent brewing in PoK and Gilgit-Baltistan, how should an ordinary Indian react to such developments? Is there any way, what should be the Indian response be to such situations obtaining in PoK? What does it speak to you about the human rights situation inside PoK and Gilgit-Baltistan?
Well, I think we should raise this issue of human rights violation in these regions because we have been conspicuous by our silence on this issue. You are perhaps the only channel which is talking about what's happening within PoK. The others are silent on this, though, despite our obsession with Pakistan. I think also on an international level, we have to proactively remember the Prime Minister had said that we are going to aid Gilgit-Baltistan long time ago. I think we've got to put that into practice, flesh it out, and go to the United Nations with issues of human rights violation in this region. B, also it threatens us, because most of the terrorist training camps, or even their launching pads, all their launching pads, are situated in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. So that is an issue we have to hammer home. This is what people in that region are also protesting against, because the kind of rapacious behavior which is indulged in by these terrorists who are being trained in these camps run by the Pakistani army is completely alienating people of PoK from the Pakistani army as well as the Sarkar in Islamabad. So I think it's high time we raise these issues on an international level. It also affects China, because look, here we are going to hit two birds with one stone. The Chinese are heavily invested in Gilgit-Baltistan. They've put in, as of now, at least about $100 billion on building a dam, on the CPEC corridor. So, and this is all in Gilgit-Baltistan. So we have a golden opportunity to raise issues about that region, and we should jump in.
Absolutely. Mr. Jalali, thank you so much for your inputs, and thank you for making time to come to the studios for discussing this issue. I want to thank my guests, Lieutenant General Qadian and Mr. Jalali, for this discussion. All right, moving on now. Amid the ongoing standoff between the Indian and Chinese troops at Doklam, Indian Army Chief General Bipin Rawat has warned that similar incidents are possible in the future. General Rawat has said that Beijing is attempting to change the status quo at the line of actual control. He said, and I quote, "The recent standoff on the Doklam Plateau by the Chinese side attempting to change the status quo are issues which we need to be wary about. And I think such kind of incidents are likely to increase in the future," unquote. The general asked soldiers to remain extra vigilant. He said, and I quote, "We should not be complacent. Let's say that this standoff is resolved, but our troops should not feel that it cannot happen again in different sectors. It is always better to be prepared and alert than think that this will not happen again. So my message to troops is that do not let your guard down," unquote. Now, the People's Liberation or PLA of China and the Indian troops have been locked in a standoff for more than 2 months now at Doklam. Since then, Chinese troops have sought to make incursions into Indian territory at Baragozi in Uttarakhand's Chamoli district, and Pangong Lake in Ladakh.
To be an effective instrument of national security, the military cannot operate in isolation. It has to be a part of a fully coordinated and coherent grand strategy in which diplomacy and economics are equally important. The emerging security environment is full of uncertainties. Within the maze of ambiguity, we need to correctly identify and define our security concerns that impact our national aspirations.